Welcome back to another episode of the AI Transformation Daily Podcast, where we move beyond AI headlines to what it really takes to help organizations from AI ready to become AI driven. I am your host, Bannavti. Every week, we bring you conversations with leaders who are helping organizations navigate the real challenges of AI, not just the technology, but the leadership, culture, governance, and human behavior that's determine success. Today's guest has spent years helping leaders solve one of the overlooked challenges in transformation, getting people to genuinely buy in. Joining us today is Rockey, leadership consultant, author, and expert in organizational commitment and change. Joe's work explores the difference between saying yes to a change and actually embracing it. And in today's AI era, that distinction has never been more important. Joe, welcome to the AI Transformation Playbook.
Well, thank you for having me, Eric. I'm glad to be here.
So, Joe, many organizations believe their biggest AI challenge is choosing the right technology. You believe the bigger challenge is something entirely different. Why is it that?
Well, the biggest challenge that I see in really all businesses, but AI is certainly no exception in how people both build the AIs and use them as tools, is that we're a collection of individuals who all have the same business card, but we're not a team. And that is the biggest challenge that I am seeing across the board in all industries, where people are like, you know what? That guy's not working that great. We'll give him a tool to work better. Or if he doesn't, this guy who is working good can replace him. Well, how are you building a team with that kind of starting mentality? But that's the underlying current that people are feeling across the board, again, from both the producers of the AI and those who are implementing it. And that's, like I said, building that team camaraderie, something that few try to do anymore, but it's the biggest gap. So that's where I see that, Eric.
So you often distinguish between agreement and buy-in. What does the difference look like inside an organization?
So when someone is truly bought in, not only do they care about doing their own work and their own professionalism and all that stuff, but they also care that the unit as the team actually gets there. And this is where one of the things that I've seen people like in recruiting fail. Get someone who was super bought in at their old company, and then they go to the new company and it's a collection of individuals and they're trying to get everyone together, but no one wants to congeal. And that's the problem that, like I said, we're facing with. So getting that buy-in is so critical. I want to be here. I want to care about the team. I care about the mission. And it's not just all about what I'm getting out of this. Now, granted, you got to give them the right incentives, but the right incentives isn't always more dollar signs. And that's one of the biggest failure points that blows people's mind, that economically speaking, dollars are one of the worst incentives you can use. But it's the first one everyone does.
So talking about buy-in and the culture, can an AI initiative technically succeed while culturally failing? You think we can still succeed if people don't buy in since we're using technology?
Oh, people think that when I talk about this, AI is the enemy of buying in. No. AI is just another tool. The buy-in and the culture is on the human relationship side. This is why this is applicable to all industries. It doesn't matter whether you're making bread or you're selling cars or you're doing nonprofit stuff. Your culture is made by the people, not by the tools. It's not the quality of your oven, the goodness of your drill for putting the cars together, or whatever you're doing with the nonprofit. What matters is the people and how is that relationship between the business and the employees. That has nothing to do with AI. AI is a tool. So people who try to say that we can't have a good culture because there's too much AI in here are completely missing the boat, and they are wrong. They're fundamentally failing on the buy-in and culture issue.
Because they are afraid of the technology. Is that what you've seen, or is there something deeper happening?
The fundamental problem that they're having, again, nothing to do with AI. AI is not going to change your culture. What AI might do is, instead of me staring at this computer for 18 hours a day, now I only need to be here for 6. That's a win, by the way. So let's erase that. So the fundamental failure that most businesses have is they never ask the most important question when they were building the business, and continue to don't ask that today. And that is, what is the business's relationship with the employees? The default setup that everyone has is, I'm paying you, so you do your job. Even though we wrote the job description horribly, we're not managing you correctly, and we have no idea how to measure your success, you go do it. And that's the default problem that the global workforce, but particularly the American workforce, is embraced in. And it doesn't win.
Right.
And again, nothing to do with AI. AI would help you in this more than it would hurt you.
So when organizations announce an AI initiative, what's usually happening emotionally inside the workforce? What's the biggest mistakes leaders make during those first conversations?
The biggest, maybe it's the first conversation, but it's normally the prerequisite already inside their head. The biggest mistake that leaders make, when it be either AI or employee relationship or whatever, is they bought into something they were taught in elementary school, which is the golden rule. We all were taught, treat others the way you want to be treated, which is fine when you have a bunch of second graders and you don't want them to punch each other and steal stuff. It is a horrible way to run an adult relationship, because if it's just treat people the way I want to be treated, in all probability, that manager didn't come up with AI. It didn't come up with this fancy tool. It was, you know what? I had to make 500 cold calls a day, and so are you. I don't care if there's a thing that can make the life easier and have our outreach be better. I had to do this, that, or 20 miles uphill both ways in the driving blizzard. That's what I had to do. That's what you had to do, because that's how I was treated. And that's what they expect to put upon their employees. And you can, I didn't try to create a straw man, but this is literally what's in people's heads. And this is how you can see it being a detriment from actually moving forward and having better connections with your people, better a problem in terms of moving forward and choosing a better solution route, or whatever the case might be. That's inside their head. Sometimes they say it out loud. Most of them don't, because it's in your psychology, or it's in your subconscious. And most people don't even realize how they're programmed, let alone what is doing the driving of their programming. And this is one of the common things that we all share.
Yeah, so now from just having the initiative to actually implementing and executing the transformation, let's talk about leadership. What behaviors from senior leaders create like with genuine commitment instead of a simple compliance? How can leaders create trust before asking people to change?
So to actually get people to change, they have to see, and this is true whether you're in sales and trying to say, hey, buy my product, or just trying to get your boss to listen to you to do your initiative or idea. This is the same true regard, the same mental and psychological process is going on. They have to see two important things. And this is where most people fail, because they only show one or the other. For the change actually to happen, the decision maker has to first see how it will help what they are in charge of, the business, the department, the division. It's going to make everyone more efficient. Instead of being in front of the screen for 18 hours, they're in front of it for 6. Great. I was in front of it for 18, so why should I care? That's your initial pushback you already have before they even say it. And that's where you have to introduce the second thing. What's in it for them? So, dude, here's the reality. All your people are more efficient. So as a result of them becoming more efficient, you can then put them on additional tasks because they now have freed up resources. And you get to be the only regional director in this entire company who has figured out how to do that. What does that do for your personal life? See, now it doesn't matter the way I used to do it, because I want to be there and I'm not there yet. So if this is part of me getting there, it's new territory for me. I will explore intellectually this idea. Maybe say yes, maybe say no. There's no guarantee of a yes. But those are the requirements to start to implement a change. Whoever the decision installers are, whether it be a committee, one person, you get them to see both how it benefits the entire organization they're in charge of and how it benefits them personally. That is your only pathway to having true and lasting change be afoot.
How do leaders know whether employees will be supporting it?
That's a good thing. How do I know they actually care and that the message is landing? Again, it goes back to, this is the way that I would respond. This is the way that I would want to present a message. And the issue with that is that on a psychological perspective, for someone to have the same communication style as you, the same motivations, the same drivers, and the same desired acceptable outcome is at best 15% of the population, at best. Now, what companies were really trying to do in the 50s were only hire people who were in that same 15% of them. But under the modern world, that's impossible. There's all kinds of laws preventing that, but there's also flat out competition. I need to have the best person, whether they're exactly like me or not. We need to win this. So what happens now, we're having all kinds of different people in the room on a personality perspective and on a psychological perspective. So as a result, when you're going out and trying to do everything the way you want it, the way that you think the message will land, you're getting one of two reactions from those who aren't a part of you. You're either getting the inner soul blank stare. Externally, they might be perfect, but their inner soul is like, just keep it moving. When's this meeting going to be over? Or you get option two, which is, this guy's only pushing me to get what he wants. He doesn't care about me. He's only trying to get what he wants. Either way are wildly destructive. So what you do to solve this problem, and Eric, you probably have some AI tools that can help people with this, is you need to understand what that person's soul actually is, what drives them, what helps motivate them, what moves them to the distance, and then you communicate to them through that prism. And this is one of the things my company, Elite Business Cruises, does, and we implement AI to help us with. So again, we are here helping building relationships and culture and using AI. So when I said at the beginning, these two are not fighting each other, they are integral because we see these real business challenges. Because now it goes from, oh, I'm dead inside, I just want this meeting to end. Even if they're smiley and cheery on the exterior, that's what their inner soul is. You're driven by the inner soul. So at the end of the day, that's the element of, how do I know if this person's actually connecting or resonating with me? Well, there's a couple of litmus tests. Did they give you actual feedback? Are they engaged in the conversation? Or is it as soon as that bell rings, they're sprinting out the door, or whatever the business appropriate of sprinting out the door is? Well, I'm going to go over and get the coffee and then I'm in my car, opposed to being the road runner with a trail of dust as you're running across the screen. But either way, you should be able to sense that if you have any ability of knowing your people. And most people can detect that no matter how narcissistic they are. They can even detect they didn't listen to me. And it's of different personality types. If you are truly narcissistic, you'll get angry by that. You'll feel this twinge inside of you. If you're the opposite, you'll feel the, why aren't I connecting? What did I do wrong that they didn't understand or want to do this? And you'll feel these different twinges inside of you as the presenter, as the leader, of saying, oh, that didn't work. And the real answer is because you didn't communicate them in the way they want to be communicated with, because you didn't use the tools that actually let you separate outside of your own personality that you have lived in your entire life.
I like that. I like what you just said right out. But I feel like we're in an 101 with Business 101 class. Though we have AI tools that can do everything, this podcast we are staying away from the tool, because there's a tool for everything out there. I use so many tools. I know what each tool can do. Like, we're trying to focus on the Business 101 tips that people still need to focus on. Let's say the first 90 days of the transformational process of AI, many efforts lose in those first few months. Why do you think that happened?
So you lose momentum because whatever was driving that success, you either achieve or you stop believing it. So that's one of the biggest problems with the incentivization processes that people use. So I'm all gung-ho. I think that it's going to be, but go back in the day when we had to do school drives and sell candy, or it doesn't really matter what it was. They would do that big presentation. This is what you can get if you sell this amount. Everyone's all super excited. Oh, I'm going to get the coolest bike in the neighborhood. I'm going to move so much candy. It's going to be awesome. And then what happens? 10 minutes into it, you see one of two things. Either this is hard, no one answers the door when I knock on it, or that guy's already sold 800 things and I'm never going to catch that. So your incentive goes out of the way because what you were trying to get is no longer available to you. And that is the number one reason things lose momentum. It's not that the technology stops working or that bike doesn't pump anymore. It's the people don't believe that they're going to be able to do it. And that's the number one thing you have to solve. And that's what creating a good incentive structure you have to keep in mind. And that's my world.
So what do you think leaders should focus on during this first 90 days of the adoption process? What happened to the long-term success?
Well, the habits are going to lead to the long-term success is all about what that metric is. The number one thing you have to have up front is a very direct how we are keeping score. And normally leading indicators are better than the final result. So for instance, if you think of a real estate company, the leading indicator is getting the listing or the sales agreement that says, I'm going to show a house, you're going to buy it. The end result is actually selling the house and getting paid. But the leading indicator is what leads there. Because if you don't get any listings, you're never going to be at a closing table. It's just not the way it's going to work. So in sales, there's no one in my pipeline. I'm never going to have any final sales. It's the exact same notion. So have a very clear leading indicator that you are following. So oftentimes when we're talking about new initiatives, it's adopting a change. So whether it be a new technology, a new process, a new way of thinking, a new product, it doesn't matter. That you don't necessarily know A plus B equals C yet. They can tell me that from the outside looking in all the time, but until I've done it, I haven't experienced it. And that is where the motivation incentive that's driving someone is what moves the difference. And that's what you have to do. So you have to have the motivator for them be achievable, be obtainable, and directly measurable. So they're always in acknowledgement of I can do this and how do I do this. Doesn't mean they're always going to hit success. I don't want to try to imply that if you build the perfect mousetrap, the mouse is going to go into it, but it dramatically improves the likelihood of success.
We know culture doesn't move as fast as technology. How do you think organizations can prepare their people without, if an organization has limited resources, where should they begin?
So that's a very good point, that the technology will always move faster than the culture. You can make the argument it's always been that way and it always will be that way. And it's because they're two very different speed limits. The technology changes as soon as someone has a new idea and can manufacture it, whatever that version is. The culture changes whenever we overcome these basic human issues that we've had since the dawn of time, because we're a social species, which is who gets credit for what does this do? It's all the selfish stuff. What does this do for me? How does this make me look? What happens if this fails? If it wins, do I actually get credit for it? All these different social and political dynamics affect the culture. And depending upon how it is run and the personalities in place is really how it is. And I say this to say that there is no one way of having the winning or correct culture. There have been 60 plus Super Bowls at this point. If you look at all of those teams from a dynamic, they have similarities, but none of them are identically the same. You have some of these Tom Brady teams where he's a dictator just screaming at everyone who does anything wrong. And you look at some of the Peyton Manning teams where he's going to give every person a hug and make sure they're all great. Now, granted, there's still accountability in both models. There's still, you have to move a guy around to tackle people in terms of the actual what you're doing on the field. But there is no one way to do the culture. But there is, we have to build this up and recognize that we're actually doing this together. Because the number one thing that kills culture is the lack of a cohesion team. And that's just the problem. People scared of eggshells. Where do I fit? How do I want to fit? And that's always going to be slower than the technology. And there's nothing you can do about that.
So one thing that keeps coming out on this podcast, AI doesn't replace leadership. It's not less for leadership.
If you view it as a detriment or a problem, it is more so you problem. People get caught up in, and this is what scares them, which is I see at the local grocery store, I see it at the fast food place, what used to be me talking to a person, now I'm talking to a robot. So therefore, AI is bad. But the reality is your order's more accurate and things are better. There's a lot of legal reasons about why companies adopted the AI in those circumstances. One is someone will show up and work that shift. There will be someone there who actually can take the order and get it done. Also, I know what the fixed cost is. So every single time these wage laws come up, my AI price is set. I already know what I paid for it is. And I don't need to worry about some outside force changing it. Because that's another real business concern that every business has, is outside pressures they have to listen to. You're a tree in a forest. The wind is still going to blow you. You're responsible for making sure you get the sunshine and the rain and all that stuff, but you can't control the elements. Yeah. And that's one of the things that when people say why they don't want to adapt AI, that it'll hurt the culture because of that. But the real answer is that what you should be doing is having people doing higher and more satisfactory work to them. Understand truly what their personality and position is and what their ideal position and usage of their skills would be. And the vast majority of the time, you're going to find that the AI is not hindering it. It can actually augment it and help it go to a better spot. And oh, by the way, doing that higher level function makes your business better, perhaps in terms of customer service, efficiency, or what happened, but more productive and more efficient, which is whether you're running an athletic department and you're trying to make sure that we get the most 5 stars assigned to our team or get the highest attendance, or whether you're running a McDonald's, it doesn't matter. You want people to be efficient and successful because there's only so many man hours your team has, and you need to make the most out of them. Well, I really think that AI is something you like. I know I'm talking to you on an AI show, but I think it's a no-brainer at this point. You have to embrace it and utilize it. And I don't know if this is the appropriate way of looking at it, but I look at it as like you have to have a car at this point in modern society. It doesn't necessarily need to be a Dodge Viper, which is the fastest thing on the road, to be able to dominate everything, unless you're trying to win a NASCAR race. You can do fine with a different version of the tool. And we're all not meant to be driving around in Mack trucks or Cadillacs or whatever. There's a tool that's used for everyone. And I think the best thing you can do is actually talk to someone who's experienced in this, who knows the entire breadth of catalog out there. Well, we have an F-150 that's good for this. We have a sedan that's good for this. Actually talk to someone who understands the world as a person, opposed to just going to plot or chat and being like, tell me what I need, because they don't know you. Talk to someone who's actually been there, done that, and built this stuff. That's how you should implement AI into your world. Is it an extra step? Yes. Is it completely worth it and more efficient? Absolutely. And there's no other way around that. So, Eric, that's how I would address it. If you're sitting here and looking at the AI and how it should come into what your next step should be, I'd say talk to someone who actually understands this, has implemented and knows how to program this, because they might not know your business as well as you do. They don't know Barb in the back is going to start becoming more efficient or whatever. And unfortunately, no one will except for you. But you're also not going to know what vehicle they should be in either until you get to know them. It's the same thing's true.
So imagine you're advising a CEO launching an initiative in the coming days or maybe next month. What are the first 3 conversations you guys need to have?
So the outcome of trying to initiate a change, regardless of what that change, it needs to cover those 2 basic things we said before. How does the organization win? How does the individual decision maker win? If you were trying to present a change to that person and they clearly get those 2 bullet points, you win. And here's the other bigger point about it, to go in a little bit more depth, is that how it affects the organization is oftentimes how it impacts the individual is the what. And those are 2 very important distinctions. So if you're running a business, make it simple, as a restaurant, you really care a lot about what your chefs are doing in the back, how they're making the food and all that. And this is the recipe we use. We want to make sure it follows it to the T. But your clients don't care about that at all. What your clients care about is, I had a good environment. I liked it. The thing tasted good. I don't care what the recipe was. It was good. I don't want to make it. I just want to eat it. And that is a trap that a lot of decision makers are at, because their whole life is putting out this issue here, especially in smaller businesses and founders. We lose sight of what is the emotional why I did this, why I wanted this, what life was like before this, and what life will be like after it. And just using that simple rainbow analogy, from an emotional standpoint, this is what your life's like before we put this change in. You're worrying about this. You're constantly having to do this anxiety inside of you or whatever. And on the other side of this, that ain't going to exist anymore. You're not going to have to worry about, are they checking and doing their jobs or whatever the case might be. Initiative. That is how you accomplish it. And when they can what's in it for them and clearly see the how makes sense, they will give it a try. Yeah, and none of this guarantees the initiative will work, but that's how you at least get the start, because if you don't start the initiative, it never has a chance. So that's the point of this.
Yeah, so that is the biggest myth about AI adoption.
Biggest myth? I think the biggest myth is that the AI will cost more than it will benefit. There's some deliverance of the problem with an industry overall now. And this happens to everything. This is not meant to be an AI bashing.
Absolutely. I like when you insist on that.
But you go out there, you can see pharmacy pills where, is this thing I'm actually about to spend $500 on a prescription for, is this actually different than Tylenol? And that is a spot where, because in the AI space, it's so, just like pharmacy, no one actually knows how those formulas work. I just know that my grandpap had aspirin and things worked out well for him, so I can do that. Well, true. Your grandpap also had Excel spreadsheets and things worked out, or you can use an AI model that's infinitely better. And there's the reluctancy of change, which is what we talked about a lot here. And the myth that people have is that there are so many elements out there that are trying to sell AI when all it really is a different paint job that you're paying for something you probably could do for free. And that's the difference between being with a true company and a fly-by-night program, I guess would be the best way to say that. Say that's not the world I'm in with, but that's the myth that people think they have, is that just because I had one AI product and it worked, that all AI products are bad. No, the real problem is probably you went with a direction that wasn't an effective and good solution for you. Every product is built, again, AI or not, towards a specific need. That's why I gave the car example before. If you're trying to get fuel economy, you should not be driving around in a giant F-350. It's not going to get fuel efficient. Likewise, if you need to haul a boat, you shouldn't be driving around in a Prius. So it's like, you got to have the right tool for your job. And what happens is people get a tool, they probably don't even know how to fully utilize it. They come to a erroneous decision that was a bad idea, and then now they just have that stain on them that they never want to let go. And that's very human nature, very poor, but it is very to do, and that's either. So I would say that's the biggest myth.
So what's the most overhyped leadership skill?
So I would say the best leadership skill, that's a hard one because there's so many of them. And I also want to say this, there is no one universally best personality type. That doesn't exist, because you can be a leader with any personality type and be successful. What you need to have, and this is the skill that to be adopted, is the ability to say that my skill set can do this and my personality type does this. That's what I naturally like doing. But I need someone who can do this, the other side of that coin, and be willing and accepting to the other side of the coin. It's a thing that makes you best in marriage, by the way. I'll have to put on a second personal element of that, but that is the skill set that's required. Being able to recognize the limitations of your and being able to see someone else's strengths and strengths, not as a competition, but as complementary. And that's what all the best leaders do, regardless of what their individual personality types are.
So what do you think destroys trust process?
Well, I mean, you see universal things. You always have to be able to communicate it. You have to be able to be humble. You have to be able to be aware, realistic. Like, all things are attributes that they need to adopt to be able to your.
So what is the best book every leader should read?
Wait, say that one again. It's a book that every leader should read. The one's also hard. That the future answer for this is different than the current answer. I do think the future answer that every leader should read, especially the younger your employee base is generation. I think that is a personality and psychological standpoint that will have has a bigger input on people entering the workforce than those leaving it. So having that as a strong database of those who effectively were born in 2000 or beyond, I might have that date slightly off. Might be born in 2013, but either way, there's more of them entering the workforce every day than leaving it, and will give you a really big head start on working with both the young generations. So it would probably be the one that I would tell people to implement. It's called the anxious generation.
So what the one skill will never replace?
Say that again so I answer this correctly, because
the one human skill AI will never replace.
The one AI. See, this is why, because it do a lot of great things, but there's a lot of things that it cannot replace. There's not one. See, this is like I'm trying to find number one.
Yeah.
You go as elemental as possible. Yeah, because at the end of the day, every human being is built to have meaningful relations. This is a species. We are built to have meaningful relationships, and throughout history, you see examples where people go to extreme of building relationships outside of other people, whether with or even technology. And every time you've seen that, I'm talking about but I'm talking about super extreme stuff that has happened. There has been some form of a corresponding anguish that person has gone through, because we are built to have meaningful relationships with other people. And that is something an AI will never be able to replace. Yes, you can talk to Chat or Claude and have it give you advice about who should you be dating or who should you talk to, and have it give high-level logical analysis. But it will never be able to build a meaningful relationship that will be fulfilling for people. That was the highest and most important thing that AI will never be able to be replaced.
Yeah, like one habit
Every second makes every should develop to be able to connect with people outside of yourself and to be able to explore new things. And I think that the underlying attribute that guides if you have that or not is curiosity. If you can stem a deep curiosity in yourself and those around you, everything gets better. So it would be how I would say that.
Okay, so you describe the future
of work. Well, I do think that there's a couple of challenges and benefits of the future of work. Benefits is that you're going to have more tailored solutions for you to choose from, which will ultimately give people better advantages. You can have someone who built a solution that's perfect for my business and I can adopt it. It gives me a better speed burst than a universal one. So the future of work is building custom-made, awesome things that are going to be built for your clients. So it's very awesome in that regard. It's new, it's unique, it's high-level, challenging issues. It's all custom work is, regardless of the industry. I'm excited building a custom burger than the one you built 13 times in a row before it, just the way it is. The challenge that simultaneously presents is there's a steeper curve to be able to enter into that sphere. It's almost like jumping up a flight of steps, and because we took out 2 of the training levels, you got to be able to climb this flight of steps without the first 3 being there. Some people will be able to jump that high and do it. And is really having schools actually be good at teaching kids to be able to learn those first 2 before they get there. I'm not sure they do or not, but that's a digression aside there. But that is the challenge of being able to be on that curve there. Now, the light in that tunnel is that the younger generation who has to learn how to jump those is constantly surrounded by technology and AI. I mean, the story of the anxious generation is there's negatives to this equation, but the positive is they're less probable to get caught up in that challenge. The good part is you're doing higher level work, it's customized, and it's as a result. And when you're using a true system that's correlating what each aspect is to everyone's personality types, work should become more fulfilling, more efficient, more profitable. Which the upsides, the hard sides, it's going to be harder to get onto the. So that's what I see the future of work ultimately being.
All right, good. So at the end of every always ask gets the same question. If you could add like one the enterprise AI readiness index, what will it be and why?
So the one pillar I will want AI for governance that be the ethics. I have no idea how it goes about that and how to even teach ethics. But that would be the one thing that I want to have any AI program that I'm having do it as a pillar of its starting point. It's a pillar that I have for my employees. It's a pillar that I want to have for AI. You don't make stuff up. You don't lie. You know what ethics is. Yeah. I want it to have there. And I also understand that ethics is a cultural thing, and every culture has a different element of what is acceptable and what isn't, which makes that hard. But that be the one pillar that I demand within all my employees, and I also demand within my AI solutions.
So imagine every CEO, every founder, and every executive is listening to the conversation. What's one piece of advice you go through? You don't have to miss that.
So the number one thing that I want you as an audience member to take away from this is that AI is not an enemy to your business. And your business's success ultimately only comes down to 2 questions. I don't care what you're selling. It's these 2 questions if you'll be successful or not. What is your business's relationship with your employees? That's what we talked mostly about today. And the other question is, what is the business's relationship with your prospects/clients? If you are nailing those 2 relationships, your business will rock on. If you are having a yeah, but a great answer, your business will die. It's just a matter of pulling until when. So that would be the number one thing to take away. AI is not the enemy. AI is not why you don't have a good relationship with your employees or prospects. It can be a great tool to make it better, and you got to be able to implement it. So that'd be my takeaway for the other founders and C-suites out there.
So before we wrap, where can our audience connect with you and learn more about your work?
Well, certainly the QR code that's over my shoulder, it'll direct you to Elite Business Cruises. That's a website where we take care of really go from a collection of individuals to being a great team, hit those goals that you want. And the other thing is we help nonprofits solve a systemic problem that are all there, which is if you're a nonprofit, you have to spend the money you get today. And it means tomorrow you need to get more money. And then the next year you need to get more money after that. It's a constantly growing problem. It's a great thing because it means you're helping more people, but it's also a challenge. And the other part it means is that you never have a reserve. You never have a rainy day fund for the inevitable next recession. And we solve that for profit clients. So those are the areas that we help people, whether you're involved deeply in a nonprofit or your own business. QR code over my shoulder here. It'll take you to Elite Business Cruises. That's elitebusinesscruises.com.
Thank you. Yeah, I have to drop the website because we're going to have the audio version too. All right. Joe, this has been an outstanding conversation. Thank you for joining us today. If you've enjoyed today's discussion, be sure to like, subscribe to this episode with another leader preparing for the future of work. Remember, AI transformation isn't about replacing human intelligence. It's about helping leaders build organizations that combine technology with trust, culture, sound. See you next time on the AI Transformation Activity. Thank you very much.